that many people can see us now?
Pass fail, sassy, classy, Kool-Aid with the kale. Mama was a G, she was cleaning hotels. Papa was a driver, I was working retail. Kept us in the back of the store, we ain't hitting no mobile. Lit nigga. Already got the Oscar for the cost. Running down Grammys with the family. Probably give a Tony to the homies. Probably get an Emmy dedicated to the highly melanated. Arc Android orchestrated. Yeah, we highly melanated. Arc Android orchestrated. Yeah, Gemini still jamming. Box office numbers and they doing outstanding. Running out of space on the damn bandwagon. Remember when they used to say I look too mannish? Black girl magic, y'all can't stand it. Y'all can't ban it. Made out like a bandit. They've been trying hard just to make us all vanish. I suggest they put a flag on a whole nother planet. Jane Bond, never Jane Doe, and I Jane Go, never Sambo. Black and white, yeah, that's always been my camo. It's looking like y'all gonna need some more ammo. I cut them off like Van Gogh. Now, pan right for the angle. I got away with murder, no scandal. Cue the violins and violas. We gave you life, we gave you birth, we gave you God, we gave you earth. We film the future, don't make it worse. You want the world, well, what's it worth? Emoticons, Decepticons, and Autobots who twist the plot, who shot the sheriff, then fled to Paris in the darkest hour, spoke truth to power, made a Android out of your girlfriend. Let's get caught downtown in the whirlwind and paint the city pink, and tuck the pearls in just in case the world in. And nigga down dog, nigga move back, take a seat, you are not involved. And hit the mute button, let the vagina have a monologue. Mansplaining, I fold them like origami. What's the way, baby? This a tsunami. For the culture, I kamikaze. I put my life on a lifeline. If she the GOAT, now would anybody doubt it? If she the GOAT, now would anybody doubt it? Do anybody got it? Do anybody got it? I say anybody got it.
All right, are we starting or?
But, and Jerry was going to do intro. Okay.
I'm trying to figure out the source of the echo.
Oh, you can't hear me. You can't hear you.
Okay. If anybody
Excuse our technical difficulties. Yeah, some other device might be on to create the echo, the feedback.
is the echo still? Sorry, I'm closing on my bra.
Oh, okay. Let's mute.
Are y'all muted? Okay. Nope. There's still something. Sorry about this. I don't know. Okay. I must add another instance. Okay. So, Sade, if you can also share the slides so I can introduce everybody. Thank you. Oh, yay. You like my earrings. I love these earrings too. So, Big Dangling Earrings has been shelter in place gift to myself. And these might look familiar to anybody who's watched. Sorry to bother you. So, a quick run through of the agenda. So, we have arrived. I'm so happy you're here. I'm really happy to welcome you. Next, I'll give you a brief intro of affirmation so we can create this a safe conversation and Q&A with Zinni Rockland to celebrate the publications of Flowers for the Sea in conversation with Veronica G. Henry. We'll have an introduction by Njeri from Onyx Pages. We'll do a reader Q&A, and then we'll have fan fiction. So these are pieces done in response to Flowers for the Sea and Bacchanal by the writers of Roots, Wounds, and Words, moderated by Nicole Jr. And then we'll close. Next slide. So in terms of affirmations, we're engaging in BIPOC content and conversation. So what that means is that we allow space for people, self-identified BIPOC people to ask questions and have commentary. So if you're not self-identified as BIPOC, if you can pause on your questions, you can still ask questions, but pause to give space for self-identified BIPOC people to hold space and drive the conversation. We're also curious and actively affirming of different opinions. And we demonstrate that by being open-minded. We're also respectful, and we're thoughtful about our impact, and we're open to feedback when our impact doesn't align with our intentions. Because when we know better, we do better. So advance to the next slide, please. At the start of all Sistah Sci-Fi events, we do an Indigenous lands rights acknowledgement. I'm in Oakland, California, which is stolen Ohlone land. And then I asked a rhetorical question, what would it look like if we all paid to a Native American land trust in much the same way we pay our federal taxes each year? The next slide is really just a 30-second slide for those of you who don't know what Sistah Sci-Fi is all about. Typically, you would hear the sound, but Sistah Sci-Fi is the first Black-owned bookstore focused on science fiction and fantasy. We do a lot of online events, such as this one, and you're here, and we're super happy to have you be a part of the community. And Sade, if you can switch to having Njeri on stage so she can lead the introductions. I love to think of Njeri as Afrofuturism's answer to Oprah Winfrey, does a lot of great commentary and reviews. And if you're not subscribed to her YouTube channel, now is the time.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Isis. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And no echoes? Okay. Hi, everyone. I thank you, Isis, for the warm welcome. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited about Flowers for the Sea. So Onyx Pages is a booktube channel, which means I get to spend a lot of my time getting very excited and holding up books like Veronica and Zin are doing right now. This is an amazing time because it's not every day that we get to witness the publication date, the book birthday, with an author. One of the things that I love about these days is that, you know, as a reader, I don't get to spend time with writers while they're writing, while they're angsting, while they're not sure about what is going to come out the other end. We just get these beautiful products and we get to be super excited about them. But on days like this, we get to actually hear about the process and to celebrate and to lift up and to be among. So it's an honor to be here, Zin. I'm super proud and excited. I'm happy to be here with you as well, Veronica. You both had amazing debuts this year that that we've all been excited about. So for those who are new to the circle, I'm going to introduce Zin and Veronica and then pass it over to you for your conversation. So Zin E. Rockland is the creator of the Support Black Women Who Write Weird Shit shirt, which I need to get. Their short story, The Night, Sun, and flash fiction Tea Time were published on Tor.com. As we all know, Flowers for the Sea is their debut novella. So Zin is a 2017 VONA and 2018 Viable Paradise graduate, as well as a 2022, did I get that right? 2022 Clarion West candidate. And we have seen amazing work come out of all three of those communities. So this is a really exciting thing to know about you. And then I'm going to move on to Veronica G. Henry. So Veronica G. Henry was born in Brooklyn, New York. Big up Brooklyn. ISIS wanted me to bring up Brooklyn. I'm here in Toronto, but I'll big up Brooklyn. And Henry is the author of Bacchanal, a historical fantasy novel that opens in 1920s Harlem. And her short fiction has appeared in the award-winning Faya Literary Magazine. It's just amazing to be here with both of you. And I have a question for each of you before your conversation starts. So Zin, I think of Black speculative writing as an act of putting words in the spaces that used to be silent. And so as a reader, whenever I enter into works like yours, I think, what are you adding to the conversation? What are you bringing to the surface? And so I'm just curious about what you feel today is surfacing as we witness the birth of your work.
Honestly, everybody can hear me, right? Okay, good. I think, honestly, it's as much as I wrote as a kid, as a teenager, as an angsty teenager, as an angsty 20-something, I never thought this day would come. So I am absolutely humbled and grateful that these words are out there in the world, and it's definitely written to the angsty teenager that I was, and still I am to a degree. So it's written for the angry Black woman who is rightful in her anger. Right, exactly. The everyday angry Black woman.
Yes. Well, the angsty teenager and the angry Black woman that I am today, thanks you for that. And Veronica, witnessing others, I think that Black folks don't get enough credit for the ways that we witness each other and how we hold each other up at important moments in our careers and in our art. And what does it mean for you today to be in conversation with Zin at this particular moment?
It means everything, because I have been following Zin's work since the beginning, since the early short stories, and have always been in awe of her words, and she knows this already, so preaching to the choir for her. But to be able to be at this event with her, to actually share a debut year with her means everything to me as well. Just to see the plethora of voices that are being published today versus what it was even 5 years ago. Is nothing short of amazing to me. So I, like Zin, am grateful, full of gratitude, full of awe, just to see my words, her words, the words of so many BIPOC people that have come out these last few years, just in awe. And it's a pretty good time. Really good time for literature.
Yeah, it is. And I am a beneficiary of that. So I'm going to exit out of this conversation because it is about the two of you celebrating Zin. So thank you for letting us eavesdrop on the intimate conversation that is about to follow. And Zin, once again, congratulations on behalf of all of the readers in the room.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
So much. Bye, Jerry.
Thank you. So we are going to start out giving you more of what you love, which is Terry's words. So we're going to let Terry start off doing a reading from Flowers for the Sea. Then I will follow with a short reading from Bacchanal, and the conversation will pick up there. So Terry, I know what she's going to read, And you all just wait. Just buckle up is what I'm going to say. So I'll hand it off to you.
All right. So I'm going to start with the intro. And then hopefully I won't traumatize everybody too much. But, all right. The children imitate razor fangs, and I am without yet another night's rest. The swell of my belly increases with each new dawn, my joints all filled with useless fluid, hindering movement and completion of daily tasks. I abhor my present state, but termination is not an option. As I've been told to the point of biliousness, this child must be born. 1,743 days at sea. Recollections of a life without the curtain in our legs is stuff of fables and fairy tales. We trade stories. The babes listen and wonder, having taken their first steps on this cursed boat, their disbelief palpable. Teens brood in mildewed corners, hissing at daylight in orders to earn their keep. They bleed late, and we are eternally grateful to the godless depths below. We rut in anger and loneliness, and every once in a while an affliction is cast upon we birthing folk. I am the only one to carry this so far. I am the only to carry this far. 40 have perished for the sake of continuing our wretched lineage, their blood stained on our deck. One fetus managed to cry out before it suffocated on its own defects. The men mourned more than we, the bodies afflicted with this failure. We turned away from the sight of the young one sending their contemporary to its watery grave. I took Herat that night, and many after. I lost myself in the heat of his heartache, the wetness of his sorrow, the pulse of his resolution. He was one of the few who hadn't tried to dive deep. He stood at the bow of our boat, greeting the gorge of the sky with determination in his eyes and a faith unrivaled. Even as time ate away at the fat of his cheeks, the bulk of his chest, the baritone of his voice, he stood tall, giving the weakest of us something like hope. I hate him for it. Hope has no place on this vessel of death and disease, aimless and everlasting in its path. We'd fled the soil once it was clear the water's appetite for it was insatiable. Sand dunes and lowlands were not enough. Walls of stone and brick, huts of clay and blood all torn away in the teeth of the rising tides. Hills wore away, plateaus topped, mountain peaks mere posts in the shimmering endless road. I speak of this as if it were instantaneous, God's-like in its swift retribution for our foul existence. But it wasn't. It was achingly slow, deliberate. Hubris could not shield us from the sun's heat, from the boldness of below-surface creatures caressing the innocent flesh of our curious young ones. We were the finest coastal traders of the continent. Sea-battling vessels, fish, fruit, and labor were our currency. We were hard-back and hard-working. We were proud. And now we are dying. The children imitate razor fangs, and I grind my teeth, sharpening mine own, preparing. Okay. So at this point, this is not much further ahead. I'm not going to do the birth. Change my mind. Roxy has just had a nightmare. She just got examined. And the baby hasn't moved in 10 days. And there's a little bit of panic. But she's gone to take a nap and has just woken up from a nightmare. I turn, and I awaken with a gasp. To dream of my family was enough, of omit too much, of him a sin to my personal doctrine, but it was a stab of pain in my side that has truly awakened me. Nausea pushes me from the hammock, and a sloppy thud against my... Nausea pushes me from the hammock, and a sloppy thud against my knees. The impact rattles deep in my gut, and I hiss through the cage of my teeth, stifling a holler that no one would hear, regardless of its strength. I balance myself against the bunk and stand, bit by agonizing bit. I waddle from my quarters, thinking of rushing to Ket, but a sudden wave of shame burns enough for me to change course, heading up the winding staircase towards the light of day. The hum of the afternoon prayers teases renege, until a fresh twinge seizes a muscle along the left side of my belly and encourages me upwards. I'm nearly lightheaded from lost breath when I am finally above. I spread my legs and bend over, my hands on my knees, waiting for the cramp to pass, but it worsens instead. A groan leaves me before I can bite it back. Whispers replace chanting, yet no one approaches until Amit stands from his patch of cloth and rushes to my side, a calloused hand on my lower back, his thumb finding the single hole amongst my dresses to caress my skin. I shudder at the contact, close my eyes, breathe as deeply as my belly will allow. Are you well, Roxy? Amit asks, and I'm tempted to knock his knee out of place. I will be, I say instead. Give me a moment. He shifts away but does not release his hold, and I'm thankful to the point of tears. Yet I say nothing and wait until the moment has passed before standing upright and shirking his touch. It ignites something in me I find harder to ignore the longer he is in contact. The feeling is not new. Amit has always managed to awaken me, even back on land when we played as children and sneered at one another as teens. But it is not a welcome feeling for me. I feel unmoored, uncertain in my movements and thoughts and expressions, dulled yet acute at the same time. It puzzles me that I still feel this way years in. But I don't like to hurt him, so I move away. Stay away from him as often as I can, including now, scurrying towards the other end of the boat, to the bleached oak sun chairs situated at its rear, where the most breeze would be on even the most of still days. I don't make it. Harat stands in my way, once thick and corded arms crossing his once barrel chest. He is a shadow of his physical self, but his ego still supersedes any perceived physical weakness. He silently commands this boat, directs inhabitants with a mere nod of his head, a twitch of an eye, like now. That silence pushes the weakness to admit, and I am left yet cold again. It is a sensation I should be most acquainted with, Amit. Still I find myself fighting the sting behind my eyes. A rise from the cloth in Harat means the prayers are over, despite the lack of an offering. He strikes fear in these people, all of them, except in me. And perhaps his irritation with me begins with the acquiescence of power I hold, the power to crumble nations and now the power to save our humanity. Perhaps he hates me just as much as I hate him. Yet and still I feast on his vulnerability, on the tears he cries while still inside me. That softness is all I want. I want to destroy him, and destroy him I still can. You should not be here, my dear Roxy, he says, the endearment like spoiled meat on his tongue. He sours as he meets my gaze. His face sours as he meets my gaze. The sun is too bright. I need air, Harat, I say, standing taller. The forced position irritates the twinge, and I wince. Harat reaches for me, but I back away in time. My quarters stifle me. A range of irritation flashes across Harat's pretty face, and I staunch a smile. Oh yes, he's still pretty. Always will be, I fear. The alpine cuts of his cheek and jawline, the pout of his delicious lips, the strong, wide-set nose, mop of dark, full curls blowing in the soft breeze. The curls I'd had in my grip 2 weeks ago as he pumped into me mercilessly, the last time we'd rutted. But I do not miss him. My hatred of him has blossomed into disgust. Yet my body betrays me as he tugs me to his side, dragging me away from the others who've gathered around to ogle at my affliction, or even worse, continue to pray to a god long dead. And I'll stop there.
Awesome. We'll talk more about that first scene in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to read a short bit from Bacchanal, and not going to read from the protagonist's point of view, and I'm also not going to read from the antagonist's point of view. One of the most important characters in Bacchanal is the carnival itself. So this passage is from the carnival's perspective. For this occasion, with the wife and kids in tow, he left the white robe and pointed hood at home. Instead, he wore his favored navy wide-legged trousers and white shirt. The wife had scoffed when he added the bow tie, but she planted a kiss on his cheek all the same. His little girl slipped her hand in his as they strolled around the carnival grounds. He winced at the chafing in his palm where, a week back, he'd nobly earned rope burns from a righteous killing. See, you made it. It took him a moment to place the stranger, then he realized the way he looked like the devil himself when he'd stepped out of the truck that night at the Negro lynching. The bright red hair had caught the glint of fire in a way that was off-putting. Clay Kennel, owner of this here carnival. The patron of the evening's entertainment introduced himself with a little bow that made his boy giggle. Much obliged for the invite, Mr. Kennel, the man said. Couldn't think of anybody more deserving. You folks enjoy yourselves then. Inhospitable not to offer a personal tour of the place, the man scoffed. But you can't expect much in the way of manners from his kind. Any decent sort of man would find steady work and settle down with the family. Probably why he's hired so many darkies, too. No upstanding white man would settle for this kind of life for too long. He left his family in a longish line for a ride with enough money to see them through a few games to boot, and went in search of the beautiful woman from the poster plastered on the outside wall, the one his wife had caught him gawking at. He swore he'd circled the place twice. Now he stood scratching his head, looking out at the empty field behind the last tent, when the lights flickered and flared. Yes, it made sense that they'd moved the burlesque show off a ways. The tent was a grimy white and otherwise unadorned. Man-sized shadows jostled around inside. Hoots and hollers and sultry music drew him forward like the righteous to the pearly gates. A slow smile spread across his face. He didn't break into a run, but his pace did quicken. At last, he yanked back the tent flap and stepped inside. He blinked at a sudden fog. Shadows dissolved. The man screamed. In the standing room only space, every seat, every corner was filled with an abomination more horrific than the next. On the stage, a horned monster held court. In a sickening parody, the twisted form jerked its body through suggestive movements, hip thrust, shimmy, a behind slap. The man turned to the entrance, but each time he ripped back the flap, another appeared. Translucent hands fell on him, searing his skin. The devil flew from the stage, grabbed him by the throat, planted a fiery kiss on his cheek, and pulled him into the underworld. There, the man awoke to the flames. A rope tugged at his neck. He couldn't see where his feet were propped up on, but when the demon, of that he was certain, stepped away from a jeering crowd and kicked it out from beneath him, he swung from an unseen tree. He mumbled a blubbering prayer as his life thankfully ended, until he awoke again. The rope and stool in place, the devil and his minions howled as once again he hung limp from the rope. The man lost count of how many times this happened. A millennium later, he would still be counting.
Oof.
That is the carnival. Thank you. That is the carnival enacting its own special brand of revenge. And now we will move into our discussion. So, Roxy.
Yes.
So when we meet her, she is pregnant. She is very, very pregnant, like near delivery pregnant.
Yes.
But we find out very quickly that she despises this child. She's not excited. She's not knitting booties. So tell us about why she despises this child. I thought about, the responsibility that this child, is to her and to the people on the boat. Perhaps her despising of Herat, but talk to us about why she feels the way she does.
She feels resentful. She does not want this responsibility to continue this wretched lineage, as she calls it, where honestly there is this continued injustice against her family and these people who represent a past that continues to haunt her. It's like it's in a way it's kind of fulfilling their desires and not hers, and she doesn't want to give them anything. So Roxy is definitely the type to hold on to hold things very close to her. So she definitely feels a lot of resentment.
I definitely get that, and I understand. Roxy is a character. I love how complex she was. I love that she was layered, that she questioned her own thoughts, her own beliefs, her own feelings. But it's very easy for someone to get the wrong impression about her, I think. I actually empathized with her situation. But what did you want people to understand about her, and what perhaps might we have missed in reading about Roxy?
I want people to allow nuance when it comes to anger,
Right.
and righteous anger. I want people to allow nuance, and part of the reason why I wrote Roxy the way she is in general is because there needs to be. So, for example, I wrote another. I just love writing unlikable characters.
Me too.
I like, because to be honest, a lot of people, we say it in real life where it's just like, oh, I don't like people, or I don't have that many friends and things like that. But then we idealize, especially Black women in books, because
Hmm.
there is this hesitancy to dislike them, because especially from white people, for
Hmm.
example, um, because there is this idea that if I don't like the character, then I'm racist or something to that effect. Or and it might be the case, can't lie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like there has to be a range of Blackness, and there has to be a range of a nuance in Black womanhood.
Hmm.
Because there's this trope of the strong Black woman who always gives sage advice. And
Right.
no, I'm not one of those. So it's like I want to express that, no, leave us alone. We are individuals, we are individual people, and we all have our own um tolerances for, BS, and for small talk and things like that.
Uh-huh.
So I had written this character, and a lot of the workshop was were white, and
Hmm.
they said that, oh, I like her, she's snappy and blah blah blah. And it's just like, and the instructor, who's actually one of my mentors, Lev Rosen, who's an amazing writer, he was
Hmm.
like, no, she is not likable. Like, are we reading the same person? but but yeah, so it's just like, you definitely I wanted more nuance, and I wanted to show that just because there are actions and reactions to certain things that happen that outwardly are expressed in this kind of nasty way, they still
Hmm.
deserve empathy, and
Absolutely.
they definitely still deserve that nuance and that allowance to be.
I could not agree with you more. I am all in. Count me in for an unlikable character. I like interest. I don't necessarily, and that doesn't have to mean like. That just has to mean interesting. That just has to mean layered, multidimensional, nuanced, as you say. So definitely with you on that. Speaking of layers and nuance, talk to us a little bit about the relationship between Roxy and Herat. I know that Araxi has another love, someone that she would rather be with, but for reasons that I'll let you talk about, she is paired with Herat. And that's a pairing that you described so very well in your reading. But talk to us about that relationship.
Harat was definitely so in high school we would see like a new guy, or even in college, and we'd look at a guy and we'd see how he'd interact with the crowd, with different people and all sorts of stuff, and we'd say project.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm giving away some women's secret here, some femme secrets here,
We'll,
in the
we'll
sense
allow
that we too definitely look at the popular guy and are like, we can work on that. We got that. So for Araxi, Harat represented this kind of, she wanted to expose how faulty these people's faith in people is.
Yeah.
She wanted to conquer and destroy what these people considered their source of strength. And mostly because they kept looking towards monsters, people that do not have their interests in mind at all,
Right.
as these kind of almost a deity in a way. It started with the prince, and then it moved on to Harat, and Harat was just like basically Araxi saying project, and her saying like, I can get that, and I can destroy that, and I want to destroy these people and their faith in things that it is beyond themselves and things of that sort. So it was definitely her, basically a conquest in mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Talk to us. This is such an inventive story. I know that there are comparisons and all that, but to me, it kind of goes out on its own and does its own thing. So tell us a little bit about the seed for this novella and where it came from.
It started out with a prompt, believe it or not. I actually follow Twitter bots that generate prompts. And this one was basically, I think, like Sea Voyage or something to that effect. And it was one of the first accounts that I followed. And for some reason, the first line, "the children imitate razor fangs," just really kind of punched me in the gut. It was so simple, so straightforward. And I just was like, that is just really lyrical to me. So naturally, I also wanted to write a character who is, angry or whatever. And I also wanted to explore the craziness or the complexity of pregnancy. So I wanted to combine this character in the whole, how we love telling pregnant women, oh, you're glowing, oh, you're carrying your pregnancy so well, and they never want to hear the truth of it.
Yeah.
And how uncomfortable it is, how painful it is, and how much of a constant pressure it is on your body. So I wanted to explore that, and something about that opening about razor fangs just showed this kind of desperate situation, this destitute situation.
Yeah, I think you did such a wonderful job, so evocative in the language that you use to describe how Araxi feels being pregnant. And it's something that you don't see in literature. Like you said, it's always the opposite of how beautiful this whole process is. But talk to us about how you just even came up with the research for what it felt like to be pregnant, the other part of it, and how you decided to incorporate that into the story, and why you decided to focus specifically on that aspect of pregnancy.
I wanted to focus on it because it's still such a mystery. Unfortunately, a lot of the advances that we have in OBGYN care were due to the experiments that were inflicted on Black women in the 30s and 40s and into the early 50s. I don't remember the name of the doctor. He should be in hell. But yeah, so I wanted to explore what it really feels like to be like. A good friend of mine was, I think, 7 months pregnant, and every time someone asked her, how are you doing? She's like, still pregnant. And like that kind of, to be frank, that kind of misery was just like, oh man, like that does not sound fun at all. So I wanted to shed some light on it. And my research really consisted of asking, my mom has no problem in telling me how long her labor was, how many
Mhm.
stitches she got, how painful it was, blah, 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 because, the guilt trip. But
Yes.
I also asked others about their experiences, other birthing folk about their experiences um, being pregnant, and the labor was a little bit difficult because your brain is pumped with so many hormones and natural drugs that you
Hmm.
tend to forget a lot
Yeah.
of labor. But experiencing that last trimester and those last few weeks is something that I zeroed in on because I wanted to expose the truth of it.
And you did and did it quite well. So, speaking of pregnancy and labor, talk to us about that birth scene.
So the birth scene that I decided to not inflict on my audience today,
Mhm.
I
Describe it. Tell us about it. Where did that come from?
I personally have experienced pregnancy, but I have not brought a child to term.
Mhm.
But which I hope doesn't trigger anybody. I apologize. Um, but I wanted it to be a relatively quick labor.
Mhm.
um, but technically she is in labor for hours, but
Mhm.
the actual pushing and things like that, I wanted her to experience it on her own to really strengthen her
Mhm.
because she does not want to do this for anybody else, and she doesn't want to do this at all. But this child basically decided that this is the time to do this because you are alone. It is time
Mhm.
that you understood that this is your purpose and this is your time. So I
Mhm.
wanted to express the accuracy as much as possible as far as like giving birth and expelling a child and things like that. So yeah.
It was definitely an interesting read, a difficult read, but just such a satisfying read. So I can't wait till everybody gets to it. And frankly, that's one of the comments that were made about Bacchanals, that it's a tough read, but it's worth it.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what I can say about this novella, and particularly that scene. But along those lines, tell us, and I know that that was probably a difficult scene, but maybe there was another one. Tell us about the most difficult scene to write, whether it was emotionally or just from a craft perspective.
The most difficult scenes to write were actually talking about interacting with her past. So her
Mm-hmm.
dreams and the flashback towards the end, um, because of how much pain was held there for Roxy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it was difficult to craft in the sense of showing respect for her and
Mm-hmm.
respect for the situation, because I didn't want to lighten the load at all. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
readers to understand her past and to understand how painful her past was.
Mm-hmm.
um, so it was a matter of finding the language that really honed in on her pain and honed it, but not in a way that was sensationalized. I
Right,
wanted
right.
it to be something that was truthful to the matter.
Excellent. Okay, I want to go back to our love triangle. So tell us about Roxy's relationship with Ket, and then the relationship between Ket, Amit, Roxy, and Hirat.
So
There's a lot going on there. I don't know how much you don't want to tell because of spoilers, but it's
yeah.
a very interesting dynamic.
So Ket is the de facto OBGYN of the boat.
Mhm.
And she's young. She herself lost her own mother a couple months before the story starts, or a few months before the story starts. So she's vulnerable herself, but Ket is someone who is considered the opposite of Araxi. She wears her anger or her disappointment or anything that is considered high strung emotions. She wears them in a way that is seen as more feminine, as more attractive. So Araxi kind of begrudges her that. And so it's a matter in this particular case, it's about Araxi's jealousy in a way of that kind of softness and that presentation that she can never really pull off.
Right.
And she feels like she feels like she deserves this. She deserves love and she does deserve respect, but she knows that she's not going to get it at the same level that Ket would because of how Ket presents.
Right.
So it's definitely that complicated kind of push and pull a little bit.
That makes sense. And tell us about the man that Araxi really loves. Talk to us a little bit about Amit.
Amit is her first love, her only love, someone that she could have seen for the rest of her life. She could have seen him as her partner, because of whether it's because of the puppy love or if it's something that was actually everlasting had circumstances been different. But Amit made his choice that ended up tainting Araxi's view of him. And with that tainting, she's hesitant to love him, but she still does love him. So she's caught up in her feelings, but at the same time, her brain is like, her sense is talking to her and saying, no, this is not cool. What he did was not cool. So you should not invest in this person.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads me to the whole dynamic of what happened before everyone ended up on the boat. Tell us about the world before and how it influenced the actions and the attitudes of the people on the boat.
So it was a kingdom, and it was a relatively small kingdom, but they did have a prince, they did have royalty, and it's a heavily religious kingdom, but at the same time, it's a religion that is focused on the royalty. They believe that the royalty are God's given. So there's a lot of faith that's put into the system, into the monarchy. So it's and Araxi's family is kind of separated from all that because of the actions of the actual kingdom against her family, because they don't understand her family. And when we see what fear does and what not understanding does to people and what it can do to crowds, so that colors Araxi's experiences with the monarchy. So
that, I think that was really important to understand the setup of what came before, so that we understand why she makes a decision at the end of the book. The child is born, and she has to make a decision. Don't want to do spoilers, but talk to us about why she makes the decision that she does relative to the people on the boat and the child.
She makes that decision with the clearest intentions actually. Like,
Mm.
even though anger seems to muddle a lot of her actions prior to that, it's the most clear moment to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
I
even
love that.
though there's a lot of times that we make a comfort of our own hell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we make a comfort of our own hell, and I think a lot of ways Roxy was realizing that she was making a comfort of her own hell, so she made that decision, you know,
Yeah.
not
Well,
based on 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 the smallness of a moment. It was a grander thought.
that makes
So
sense.
I'll
And
put it that way.
for the record, I agree with her decision. Um, okay, so everyone wants to know about writing process. So talk to us about your writing process. Are you a morning person, an evening person? Do you need inspiration? Tell us about how you wrote this novella in particular and how you approach writing in general.
In general, I approach writing as, much to the chagrin of my agent. I am a pantser. I do not outline, though I'm trying to learn outlining through my friend Mark,
Uh,
because they are they are an amazing outliner. The way they break down books is like incredible. So it's like, okay, I need to learn from you so that I can plan better. Um, but I'm mostly a pantser because it does take an inspiration for me. And as much as I love that quote from Octavia Butler, where it's like inspiration is pants, basically, like, no, you need to work on structure and things like that and have a structured routine. I definitely am still really early on in my
mhm.
career, so it's like,
Uh-huh.
I know I need to get that together. But
Mhm.
for now, it's like, it's when inspiration strikes. But I definitely sit here with my laptop open, um
Uh-huh.
and listen to music, get into a
Uh-huh.
mood, get into a headspace. Um,
Mhm.
I build soundtracks. So I actually have a soundtrack for Flowers for the Sea. I might tweet that out later, actually.
Please
Um,
do. Please do.
and so, yeah, like, I just get into the headspace, and there are plenty of times that I've been out with friends and I totally cut off myself in the middle of a sentence, and I'm like, wait, sorry, gotta write this down, gotta keep this in mind.
Been there.
So yeah, my process is a little all over the place, but yeah.
All right. I know we are short on time, so I'm going to move into what we call the lightning round. This is Get to Know Terry, a series of 5 questions. Okay, first, tea or coffee?
Tea.
Smart girl. I agree. All right. Sunshine all day or let it rain?
Ooh, let it rain. For writing, let it rain.
Rain is
Yes.
good writing weather. Yes, definitely.
Mhm.
All right. For us writers, Microsoft Word or Scrivener?
I've been using Word, but I'm thinking about Scrivener.
I'm going to bring you over to the Scrivener side. And
Okay.
we'll talk about it later. All right. What would be your perfect evening? Watch a movie, go for a walk, or read a book?
Read a book. Definitely
Of
read a book.
course, right answer. Okay. Last question, but arguably the most important question. Tupac or Biggie?
Oh man, I just had this discussion with my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, Lord, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get it. But Biggie is a better storyteller to me, but Tupac has a better catalog.
Okay.
So I have to
I
go
will.
Tupac.
I will not argue with you. I will let people flay you in the comments if they choose to do so. I am Team Tupac for the record, but Thank you for that. And I think that brings our time to a close. And so we'll turn it back over to, um,
Hi. So
there we
yes,
go.
the discussion is done. When people registered, they included questions that they had for both you and Zen. And Zen, do you prefer that I call you Terry or Zen?
Zen is fine. Zen is cool.
Okay, just let me know. I like changing my name every 10 years, so I don't know about that way. So yeah, the first question I'll ask by Sarah Gonzalez, and this is for you, Zen. How are you so awesome? And congratulations. So if you want to answer that question, you can. But I was like, that's the perfect question to start the reader Q&A with.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm like cheesing here. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Yay. And Veronica, this question is for you, also by Sarah. What's your next project?
My next project is called The Quarter Storm. It is another historical fantasy, but more up to date. It is set in New Orleans and features a voodoo priestess turned private detective. It will be out in February of next year. Look for it.
Yes, I'm here for voodoo priestesses. They remind me of witches, and then she's a detective, so it's like a double yes. So I'm
Absolutely.
here for it.
Yes.
Cool. We'll be looking out for that in February. So actually, let me switch. Mark, who has asked this question in the chat during this event. Zen, what are you the most proud of in Flowers for the Sea, and what challenged you the most while writing it?
I'm most proud of the creepy baby. I can't lie.
The baby was hell intense.
The baby was fun to write. They are well, she is, she's an interesting character. Like, she's very sly, and she likes creeping people out. So I relate to her in that way. So and the most difficult part to write was definitely, as I mentioned, the kind of tapping into Araxi's past and her pain. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I could definitely see that. The next question is by Jessica Cassano. Hopefully, if she's here, I pronounced her name right. And this is for you, Zen. What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? A good hot chocolate.
Random aside, I got this lavender hot chocolate from like a local place here in Oakland. And I was like, it just gives me life. I like save it for special occasions. Anyway, so I know good hot chocolate.
I'm planning to be in Cali soon, so all right. Word.
I got you. We'll connect on Instagram. And then for you, Veronica, what was it like growing up in Brooklyn? Because I mean, I was born in Harlem, which is actually really far and very different from Brooklyn, but that's also a question from Jessica.
Actually, I only spent half my childhood in Brooklyn, but the part that I did spend there, I thoroughly enjoyed, loved. There is no place like it in the country, and I've lived all over the country, but that's one place that I can't replicate anywhere else. So loved it. Still have a sister in the area, and yeah.
What neighborhood in Brooklyn do you call home?
Fort Green's where I grew up.
Or did you grow up? I love Fort Green.
Fort Green's nice.
I don't think of Fort Green today is the Fort Green I knew.
Yeah, a lot of Brooklyn. Like, I was born in Bed-Stuy and partially grew up in Bed-Stuy, and it's like, other than Brookdale being the worst hospital in Brooklyn still, like, everything around that has completely changed.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, gentrification is real. Robin Nelson asked a question, but Veronica, you already asked what inspired the concept of the book. So that was very fascinating to listen to. Adam Glancy asked, and this is for Zen, what drew you to the post-apocalyptic setting for your novella?
I normally don't like post-apocalyptic stuff,
Mm.
to be honest with you. But something about having that claustrophobia of a boat, because I have, and I'm gonna mess up this name, Thessaliophobia, I think it's called, which is a fear of the vast sea and
Oh,
deep bodies of water. And I wanted to explore that fear. I wanted to put it in I wanted to explore being in a situation where it was surrounded by a fear. Like, bodies of water are terrifying to me. So what if you could not get away from it?
Mm.
right.
And I went with that.
Yeah. Because I mean, the book isn't like a Noah's Ark situation where like it's water, it's deep, and it's like it'll be like that for like years. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then Veronica, a similar question for you. Where do you get your ideas for your stories?
That's a great question, and I'm continually looking everywhere and everything. It could be something I read, an article I read. It could be another book I'm reading. That kind of inspires. You read one line from another book, and it sends your mind off in a totally different direction. So it could be music. It could be a TV show that I'm watching. It could be walking down the street. One of the first books that I wrote, honestly, was because I lived on a street that had this gigantic tree at the end. And it was a new development, and the tree seemed like to be the oldest thing in the entire neighborhood. And that tree was the basis for the first novel that I wrote.
Nice.
So
I love
inspiration comes from everywhere.
Yeah. Speaking of, you mentioned TV shows. What television show are you watching right now? And you may be like that because you're
Gosh,
not a TV
it is.
I am reading books, but
Gosh, it is so tough. I'm trying to think of what I have not been watching a lot. When you start writing, and Zen can speak to this, it's just like your free time is out the window because every moment is either reading, writing, researching. It's just like I have very little free time to watch. So I don't have anything. But what I love to rewatch is The Wire. So every couple years, I'll bring The Wire back up and just rewatch it, start to finish.
Cool.
that makes sense. That's a good show.
Mhm.
Yay. Zen. Oh, next question is for you. I'll actually ask this question of the both of you. This is by John Watson, who was supposed to be here. As a writer of science fiction, do you encounter your stories bleeding through to your lived reality? Do you experience a boundary between the two or more worlds? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, if what we write bleeds into reality and vice versa. I definitely thought that the universe and Mother Earth was listening a little too hard this past year because there were so many floods this summer and everywhere. And seeing and not just like a little bit on the curb. No, it was like rushing waters in the middle of town squares and things like that, and like Germany and these landlocked places that's just like, wait a minute, where, what? So that really it scared me. It definitely scared me. So I definitely see I'm the type to more so write what influences me, not so much what's currently happening. So odd things influence me, like, seeing a person with one of my first projects ever when I was like 15 was because I had seen this very young woman who had mostly gray hair. And I thought it was like the coolest thing. And I wrote like a whole novel just based on that and like built a world around like why she had the gray hair and things like that. So that's more my style than actually like seeing something in the news and picking it up. So sometimes when I see something in the news that reflects something that I've written, it freaks me out, to be honest with you.
And I would just add to that and mirror exactly what Zen said. It seems like when you get an idea for a novel or even a short story, the universe conspires to send certain things your way. I don't know if it's an increased awareness of that thing or if it's the universe responding and sending you more material. Either way, absolutely, things seem to bleed from the page into the real world and back again for me.
Nice, I love it. Okay, so we have 5 minutes left, so I'll veer away from the list of submitted questions. Zin, where did Zin come from? Like that name? And yeah.
So Zin E. Rockland is actually like a mishmash of my grandmother's names, and grandmother in the sense of the women who raised my father. My parents aren't here because they're old and they're asleep right now. So, but so that's where a lot of my stories really came from. My parents and how they told stories, and my father had said that I would annoy the living hell out of them. They couldn't wait until I could read because I would constantly tell them, read it again, read it again, read it again, kind of a thing. So, and it was just a way, even though they were tired and things like that, they would still read it in a way that was very exciting and brand new and things like that. So that is like an homage to my grandmothers.
That. Yeah, so we'll move on to the next question. Thank you for sharing the meaning of your name. It was very touching for me. This question is for you, Veronica, also from Ja. What imagery from your writing has stayed with you, and indeed will stay with you?
Oh, that's another really good question. There were a couple scenes that were very difficult to write in Bacchanal. The first is the one that I read. It's the lynching scene with the carnival taking revenge on the person that ended up in the underworld. The scene that you didn't see happened before, and it was the lynching scene. And I really struggled on whether or not to write that scene. But from the time period that the novel was set in, it would be impossible to skip that over. In fact, it would be a grave omission to pretend that that was not a part of the society that we lived in at that time. So that scene was actually very difficult to write, and it stays with me. The other scene that stays with me, honestly, is the introduction of Queenie St. Clair and the antagonist, Geneva Broussard. So it's their first meeting. It's how the demon actually gains entrance into the United States. And I just thought the play between these two very powerful Black women was so much fun to write. And in my mind, I still picture them as friends, most dastardly of friends, but they're still friends. And they stay with me.
Yay. Now I can't wait to meet Queenie Broussard. So I'm like, I can't wait to read it. So awesome.
You don't really want to run into Geneva. That's, probably not.
And then we'll close with this last question, which was submitted in the chat by, let's see, Louis A. Young. What books do you recommend from 2021 that we should read before the end of the year?
Definitely Bacchanal. For sure.
Definitely Flowers for the Sea. Gosh, there's so many.
Yeah, I know. When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen is a really interesting. I'm actually reading that right now. Creatures of Passage. I'm forgetting. That I'm not gonna destroy the author's name. I apologize.
More yet today. So
yes,
yes,
yet today. And I always should write this down because I always freeze when it happens.
If you're looking for more horror, middle grade horror, there's Root Magic by Eden Royce. That's the one that came out earlier this year.
Gosh.
Yeah, I'm drawing
that story. But yeah, so yay. Awesome. Thank you so much. So what's going to happen next is that we're going to have the fan fiction performances. Sade, who's like my tech wizard, will bring them on stage. You will stay here, and as an audience, we'll get to watch your reactions to the fan fiction. So you just sit back and enjoy. Thank you so much. This was so awesome. For those of you who have not read Flowers by the Sea or Bacchanal, you're in for a treat. Okay. Yes. Invite Nicole on stage. I'm talking to the chat. And this is that transition period. Excellent. Hi, Nicole. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Isis? Good to see you. Hey, Veronica. Hey, Terry. Hey, Zen. It's been a little bit of time. How you doing?
Yeah, how you been?
Happy Pub Day. Happy book birthday.
Thank you. Thank you, love.
It's so good to be in community with you all. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Shawan Jr., and I'm the founder of Roots Wounds Words, a literary arts revolution that produces writing workshops, performance showcases, and publication opportunities for us and by us BIPOC storytellers, especially us who have intersectional identities such as queer, trans, gender expansive, disabled, neurodivergent, and more. Over the course of the past few weeks, we've hosted workshops in celebration of Black Speculative Fiction Month. Alma Lavon Rice and Wimoto Nyoka were the faculty who ideated and facilitated those workshops, and I believe both of them are here tonight, so what's good to Alma and Wimoto. During those workshops, we had approximately 24 RWW, that's what we call Roots Wounds Words for short. We had approximately 24 RWW storytellers who got to read and generate writing prompted by the first part to Zen's Flowers for the Sea. Booyah. It's not just y'all, Veronica and Zen. We all got it. Tonight, 5 of those storytellers are going to share their unpolished and unfinished works in progress. So there's a whole lot of courage and bravery that comes along with that. Those are works rather that they penned while in those RWW workshops that I just described, led by Alma and Wimoto. So please, everyone, join me in snapping it up for tonight's storytellers who really are paying homage to the works of Flowers for the Sea, which inspired us all. So our RWW storytellers tonight are Sharon Browning, Kwame Daniels, Laquina Knox, Shan Powell, and Wimoto Nyoka. Coming to the stage is Sharon Browning. As Sharon is still connecting, let me share RWW's website. So if anyone is interested in taking our writing workshops or seeing our publications or showcases, you could check us out.
And as a workshop attendee, I highly, highly, highly recommend the workshops, the speaking engagements. All of it is just beautiful, beautiful stuff. And I highly recommend it.
Thank you so much, Zen. And we're going to have you as faculty, I'm hoping, in the very near future, after you do all of the tour and all of that stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey everybody, can you hear me? Hey Veronica, hey Zen, hey Nicole, how are you doing? It's Sade. I'm just a tech background person. Sharon, you might see a pop-up on your screen to get on stage. You can just click accept if you're seeing it.
Hey, Sade.
Hey.
And if we continue to have technical difficulties with Sharon, Sade, we can move along to Kwame Daniels, and we'll loop Sharon back in later on in the program. How does that feel?
That sounds good. So I'm just going to go ahead and invite Kwame. Give me a second.
And yes, Sade is amazing, always.
Hi. My name is Kwame Daniels. My pronouns are they, them with an XE. My background is a white wall. And I'm going to be reading my work. I sat on the ground in a towel, shivering, away from the little puddle of vomited lake water. Everything moments before was absolute confusion. I didn't know what to do with myself except breathe. My throat felt raw, my lungs hurt, and I was so tired. My clothes were soaked, but it was a hot autumn, so I was only kind of cold. I tried not to think about what I had just seen, but the moment kept flashing in my mind again and again, not being able to breathe, slipping under, hands grabbing me, pulling me to shore, a head of dark hair slipping beneath the water. My girlfriend crouched next to me, holding my hand. She opened her mouth, closed it, and opened it again. She asked, tentatively, "Did you know this person?" "No." She licked her lips and sat down, folding her legs before her. Maybe a rescue crew can go after them." I took a deep breath. "No use. They're gone." "You don't know that." "I do. The water took them. It was going to take me, but it took them instead. There's no helping now." "Well, no, Mara. Don't you get it? Rescue crews aren't coming. That's why they came out to get me. No one was coming to help, not with this lake. Okay, that's just an urban legend, Amira. Well, I know it isn't, from experience." Mara simply squeezed my hand tighter. It happened so fast. It felt like longer to me. Maybe time passes differently in water. She narrowed her eyes and looked like she was about to say something, then shook her head. Whoever that person was, they were gone now. It would be a day before anyone noticed anything. It will be half a week when they start searching. Their friends, their family, their coworkers all left behind, because they stopped for me, not knowing me, possibly knowing what they say about this lake, about the hands that pull and the arms that encircle, about the things that entice. Maybe they were enticed, but I prefer to think of them as intentional and kind. Maybe they'd had nothing to live for. Maybe they did. I don't know. I don't know anything. All I know is I'm alive and I'm with my girlfriend, and they're not anymore. A stranger's act of kindness imprinted on the rest of my life, and I thought about how I'd lived my life before this. It was okay. I was petty at times, prone to being brusque. Maybe I could be more patient. Maybe I could be more open. There were people who needed kindnesses other than me. And my grandmother always said kindness is a practice. You have to get good at it. You have to work at being better. So I would work. But for now I was tired. So I laid my head in my girlfriend's lap and closed my eyes, and I mourned the person I was and the person who saved me.
Give it up. Give it up for Kwame Daniels. That was brilliant. Next up, we have LaQuina Knox.
That reminded me of Lake Near in Georgia.
Mm.
Hello, everyone. My name is LaQuina Knox. I have a dark blue dress on with dreads pulled up in a ponytail and a purple background with a picture of a carnival dancer from New Orleans behind me. and I'm also in a wheelchair. Reckless. That's what Keisha felt when she heard the news of the little boy who was changed before his time. Her mother had warned her all the time about what can happen to a man who was reckless. But sometimes people wonder if she herself could be reckless, powerful, as she climbed into a wheelchair. She realized that maybe she already was. Thank you.
LaQuina, thank you. That was incredible. Give it up for LaQuina Knox. Next up to the proverbial stage to share some fan fiction is Shan Powell.
Hi, I'm Shan. My pronouns are she, or he. I'm not really picky either way. I'm in my room and I've got a wall full of art behind me of stuff that I made and bookshelves. They're kind of closing in on me, but I'm okay with that. That's the good kind of claustrophobia. Here's what I've written. I was little when I first heard Also Sprach Zarathustra by Strauss, probably around 3 or 4. It was on the radio, and as the music built, so did my sense of dread and foreboding. Kettle drums impersonated thunderclaps, rolling in like an orchestral storm. Something big was coming. Something bad, something bigger and badder than the big bad wolf, something far scarier than Satan, the devil himself. My first recollection of anxiety is tied up with this music. My little girl heart sped up inside my little girl chest, and I found myself running, legs pumping, tachycardia quick until I tripped up on my wonky knock knees and my turned in foot. I collapsed on the ground as the music towered over me in a sinister crescendo, and then, just like that, the fear was gone, as quick as ripping off a Band-Aid. Terror transformed to triumph, all with just a change in key. And that's all I've got for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shan. Everyone give it up for Shan. And the final Roots Wounds Words storyteller that we have for this evening is Wimoto Nyoka. Join me in snapping it up for Wimoto.
Hello, can everybody hear me? Hi, I'm Wimoto Nyoka. My pronouns are she, her, ella. I've got curly hair that's down and a dark blue jumper. I'm standing in front of a yellow wall and green wall. There's an air plant, 2 paintings. One is a little black girl with ghosts. The other one is some Native women with a lemon. Yeah, so I'm gonna just get to it. I dream of dirt, the way it felt under my feet, its many colors, its rustling blades of grass dancing in a breeze, its flowers, its strength. Sometimes it's mud, squishy under my heels, caked on my clothes, full of mosquitoes, building a ring of blood around my ankles. I still have the scars, which I also gaze at lovingly, like expensive jewelry. I miss land more than I miss my stillborns. The other women on the ship keep trying, but only one still carries. They whisper and grimace in her direction. They are jealous, but I am only curious. I want to talk to her, but I don't know how. She's been at the funerals of all my children. You'd think that would make us family. We're strangers. I'd like to be friends. I want to know what's inside of her. It can't be just a child. It would never have survived this long if it were only that. It must be other than her, other than us. When it arrives, there's no telling how it will make the others feel. They'll be scared. They'll feel replaced. They'll see it as an omen, a harbinger, but not me. Once the mountains disappeared, I felt the scope of our disinheritance. This is it. We cannot be as we were. We lost that privilege. Let us be something else. Let us be other. I plan to tell it of my dirt dreams if she'll let me. Someone should remember how beautiful dirt was. Someone should remember grass, flowers, and mud. Someone should remember that things were firm under our feet so that maybe they can be again. For the others.
Thank you, Zin, for this wonderful offering. We hope that this was good for you and a gift to you.
This was excellent. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful work tonight. Thank you.
Hi, I'm back. That was so powerful. I mean, hopefully, y'all, I loved it. I loved all the performances and the reading. So, Nicole, thank you for putting that together. We have one, I want to say thank you to you, Zin, for letting the Sistah Sci-Fi siblings community celebrate your book launch. It meant so much to me because this is what I love doing, celebrating the work of Black and BIPOC creatives. So this, makes me incredibly happy. Veronica, I definitely loved hearing you in conversation with Zin and hearing your perspective as a writer. So yeah, we have one last poll question. If you want to see more Onyx Pages, Roots, Wounds, Words, Tour.com, Sistah Sci-Fi events, let us know. As you probably guessed, Flowers for the Sea is available for purchase on SistahSciFi.com. So if somehow you haven't ordered it, now's the time. As is Bacchanal, so you can get them together. If you get Flowers for the Sea, Bacchanal, and Destroyer of Light, you get 10% off, and that discount is good for the next 24 hours. You just use the promo code TOUR. So I'm done with the book selling. Sade, can you put the slide up, please? Yay! So this is a relatively new thing that I like to do. It's a collective practice of going through our closing mantra. So it's call and response. I'll say claim our magic, and collectively, oh great, it's just me. So so Zin and Veronica, if you could do it, so there's a response part of it. Claim our magic. We'll do that 3 times, and we'll close with Ashe. I'll do a practice round. No, it's just 3 of us. Claim our magic.
Create our future.
Awesome. So we'll just do that 3 more times. Claim our magic.
Create our future.
Claim our magic.
Create our future.
Claim our magic.
Create our future.
And we all say Ashe. Thank you so much for navigating through the tech difficulties and being here with me this evening and celebrating the launch of Flowers for the Sea.
Thank you so much for hosting. This is amazing. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big shout out to the readers too.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Yay.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. And that's a wrap. Thank you. So just Jen and Veronica, do you feel clear? Do you feel good? Do you feel complete? Do you need anything? Do you have any questions?
I feel great. I think this was awesome.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much.
And if you ever do any book launches with Sistah Scifi, this is great. And we're all experimenting. It'll get smoother and better and all that good stuff.
It was awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, Terry, and for hosting. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Veronica.
Y'all have a good night.
You too.
Have a good night.
Bye.